Hey guys, how's it going? Just thought I'd do a video review here of Transformers Dark of the Moon Jetwing Optimus Prime. It says on the box he's a Supreme Class, and that's because obviously, as you can see, that mold in there is a Leader Class Prime with a whole bunch of extra stuff. I mean, this box is friggin' massive. Just to show you how massive here, I'm going to do a little bit of a size comparison. Here is Fall of Cybertron. Oop. And he fell over, of course. Try to pose him a little bit better there. Fall of Cybertron Voyager Grimlock, and there's actually Leader Class Revenge of the Fallen Prime in truck mode next to that box, and that box dwarfs both of them. Just to give you an idea of just how large this box is. Extremely large. Anyway, as you can see on the front, there is Optimus, of course, in robot mode, his accessories, etc. Of course, you got obligatory product shot right down there, him in vehicle mode with the attachments. Turn around to the side. We got some tech specs and a little blurb about Optimus. Rear, more product shots. Pretty neat. And this side here, more product shots, more blurb, blah, blah, blah. And there's the front of the box here. Now I'm going to go ahead and pause this thing, and we're going to get him out of his box, and we're going to see what he's like. Okay, guys, here I have the base for this figure, not including the Jetwing part, transformed into robot mode, and as you can see, it's a really nice looking semi-truck. It looks absolutely great. Now, there is one thing I do want to tell you though, guys. I do have a little bit of a spoiler, and some of you may have already figured this out on your own. This is actually not the Dark of the Moon Optimus that came in the box. It's actually Revenge of the Fallen Optimus in vehicle mode. And the reason I did that, and there is actually the Optimus that came in the box in his robot mode still. Now, the reason I did this, guys, was because I don't know how many of you out there have some iteration of this figure, but he is quite a mess to transform. To me, he's is more complicated above alternators as alternators are above G1. And if any of you out there have any alternators, you know how much more complicated they are than a G1 figure. It's maybe, 10 to 15 to 20 times as complicated. And to me, he's that many more times complicated than an alternator's figure. And to me, spending 2 hours transforming a figure is not a fun time. So I figured, hey, since they're identical in vehicle mode, I would just use this as the base for this this part of the review. So there you go. And the Jetwing part will actually attach to Revenge of the Fallen Leader Prime in vehicle mode just fine. Now, it won't be able to do that in robot mode, but in vehicle mode, no issues. Anyway, let's go ahead and just move on here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the figure. And it's got a lot of really nice detailing on it. It's just a great looking figure. Now, there have been a bunch of iterations of this mold. Some of the Takara versions have some chrome on them. Now, the Takara Jetwing one does not. So, this actually, in this part of the mold, is identical to the Takara one. Anyway, he does make some electronic noises in this mode. Push the button, he just makes truck noises. That's it. And that's pretty much a 360 of them. I mean, it's just really nice looking truck mode, very screen accurate. I really enjoy the way this Optimus looks in this mode. He looks absolutely great. Now, here he is next to, actually I have a Creo model of that same character here. And this was a Creo model that came out some years ago, I think. I'm not sure exactly how long ago it came out, but the two of them look really good together, I think. Real similar look, obviously, since this is supposed to be this more or less, and it looks really good. So Now, the toy is larger than the model. I mean, especially lengthwise, there's a fairly significant length difference. This guy's maybe an inch and a half longer than this guy, but overall they look pretty awesome together. So let me go ahead and get the model out of the way here. And next up, I will grab a Voyager just for fun. This is first edition Optimus from Transformers Prime, and I think those two actually look pretty nice together. One thing I really like about the Transformers Prime line is they kind of did a mix of G1 and movie aesthetic, and kind of did a unique thing, and I think they look real nice. And here, I'll just go ahead and grab our good buddy here, MP10, to kind of illustrate that point. There's the three of them together. They look real nice like that. Now, in vehicle mode, he's much larger than MP10. Couple inches longer, wider, etc. But in robot mode, MP10 is much closer in size to this guy, as we'll see in robot mode. Anyway, now let me go ahead and just grab a few of his movie brethren here. Here he is next to his good buddy Ironhide, and honestly, Ironhide's a bit large to be in scale with him, because he was a medium duty truck. He should be a bit smaller than a semi, but such is life. Here he is next to Sentinel Prime, and Sentinel Prime should actually be a little bit larger since he's a fire truck, and that would be larger than a semi, but such is life. And lastly, here he is next to Sideswipe, and that actually works pretty well for scale. Maybe Sideswipe could be a little bit bigger, but pretty good nonetheless. Anyway, now it's time to get on to the main event here, and that, of course, would be the Jetwing piece integrating with the base mode of the toy. So, it's real easy to do it. You've got basically his trailer hitch here, and that's basically your main mounting point, and then there's little slots. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, and all you got to do is flip this over, and as you can see, there's this point here, and it literally just plugs into the trailer hitch. Let me just pick this up and get that attached real quick. And there he is in Jetwing mode, and this thing is absolutely freaking enormous, and it actually looks fairly cool. It is a flying truck mode, such as what one of those is. I just realized my guns are one's popping up a little more than the other. There we go, that's a little more even. And you don't see too many flying trucks, but honestly, overall, it looks pretty darn cool. Now, the wings are articulated, so if you want, you can swoop them out. And there you go. And he's got a that's space trucking right there, guys. Oh man, that was just such a great joke. Not really. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pause right here and do some transforming and some combining and some stuff, and we'll talk about his robot mode. Hey guys, just a quick insertion here before I actually get into robot mode. I forgot to mention this in the vehicle mode portion initially. My actual first Jetwing Optimus, at least, something that sort of fit that aesthetic, wasn't this bad boy here. It was actually our good buddy Robots in Disguise, Optimus Prime from Transformers Prime, with Beast Hunter's Ultra Magnus's backpack. So there you go, and you can get some of the same vibe from this. Obviously, it's a tiny scale compared to this figure. I mean, it's not even close to the same size, But, you know, there's some of the same vibe going on there, and I just wanted to share that with you because I think that's a neat little comparison. Because obviously, now this came out, this was a Takara release before this ever came out, so this, I believe, was the inspiration for this, and it was just kind of nice to see it trickle down to something smaller, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pause here, and we will get some robot mode action going here momentarily. Thanks. Okay, guys, here I have the base figure in his robot mode. And I have to say, even by himself, he is a darn impressive looking robot. He looks really freaking cool. Now, all this is a somewhat of a remold of the Revenge of the Fallen Optimus Prime that we got, you know, several years ago. Now, out of all of the figures that have come out, I have to say, those leader class ones, you know, the Revenge of the Fallen one, and this one by far are the most CG accurate Optimuses that we've gotten from the way he looked in the movie. Now, or at least the first 3 movies. I know Age of Extinction is scheduled for release next year, but you know, with the movie Optimuses thus far, this is the most accurate looking toy. This is actually a mixture of 2 different molds. This weapon here is actually just his fuel tanks combined into that gun. And to load the Jetwing part on him, those fuel tanks have to come off. If those fuel tanks are still on there, that Jetwing armor won't go on them. So basically, you know, there was a mold called Buster Prime that came out in Japan, but it didn't have the new abdomen and all that. It still had the Revenge of the Fallen abdomen, all that stuff, but it did have a mouth instead of a faceplate, and it had a much better paint job. And then the mold where that abdomen and all that debuted was actually called Striker Prime. But ironically, on that mold, the fuel tanks were permanently affixed to them, just like the Revenge of the Fallen mold. So I find that a little funny. So this is actually a bit of a mixture of 2 different molds. Anyway, enough yapping about the guy. I'm going to go ahead and we'll just do a few size comparisons here real quick. Here he is next to our good buddy MP10, and I know on camera it looks like MP10 is a lot shorter than Leader Class Prime, but he's actually not. If you look at MP10's antenna, they go up to maybe about almost the very top of Leader Class Prime, so really Leader Class Prime is just a hair taller than MP10. Yes, he does have a fair amount more mass, but as far as tall, not much taller. And just for another comparison, I'm going to grab a much smaller figure. I'm going to grab a Voyager here. This is obviously the first edition Optimus from Transformers Prime. And the reason I'm getting him is I just really wanted to show him off with these 2 other Optimuses, because they're both real iconic. MP10, you know, being a perfect G1 Optimus, and then the movie Optimus, and then with Transformers Prime Optimus, you can really see how Transformers Prime was a great, at least in the Optimus figure, a great mixture of those 2 aesthetics, producing, in my opinion, honestly, some really nice looking toys. So let me go ahead and get him out of the way. And get him out of the way. And I'll grab some of his movie-verse brethren. We'll go ahead and we'll start with Ironhide. And he stacks up pretty well next to Ironhide. Ironhide's in good scale with him. And then we'll get his other friend slash turned enemy. Hope I didn't spoil that for you. I think Dark of the Moon's been out for, you know, 4 years now. So there's Sentinel Prime, and you know, they stack up pretty well together as well. So go ahead and get him out of the way. And now we'll just kind of focus on Optimus himself. He is, in my opinion, just like I said, awesome looking mold. I mean, this thing just looks absolutely great. Love it. You know, he is loaded down with articulation. He's got all kinds of movement there in his foot. Bends at the knee, rotates at the top of the leg. He goes forward, back, in, and out. Doesn't have any waist rotation. He, of course, has full range of motion at his shoulders, all the way around. Ratchet in and out. Elbow bend. Wrist rotation. And his head rotates. Now, I don't have batteries in this, but if I did, if you pull back on his head, his eyes will light up and it'll say, "I am Optimus Prime." There's a million videos out there of that, just in case you don't have some iteration of this toy with batteries. Now, there is one nice little detail on here that's, don't know how well it's showing up on the camera. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see it a little bit better and try to shine some light on it. There's a... it's not showing up so well because of the shadows. He's an Autobot logo right there on his chest, which is pretty cool. I like that. And he just took a tumble backwards, but that's okay. He survived. Zoom out again. Like I said, overall, even just in the base robot mode, this thing is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and pause here real quick, and I'm going to get his armor on him. That way we can get to the main event. Okay guys, here's Optimus all armored up in his robot mode. He's got all of the Jetwing armor on him, and man, oh man, does that look freaking awesome. He is absolutely gigantic. In fact, he has, I think, more mass than any other Optimus toy I own now. I think I have a new winner. My previous champion was Leader Cybertron Optimus. I'll go ahead and just grab him and put him next to this guy, but and as you can see, they're roughly the same height, and they're both pretty darn big, but I think this guy edges this guy out just a little bit, just by a hair, as far as total mass goes, weight, you know, just everything. He just edges this guy out, not by a lot, but he edges him out just slightly. So there you go, we got a new winner. Now, of course, MPO1 is taller, but doesn't weigh nearly as much as this, doesn't have as much mass. So I have a new biggest Optimus Prime toy. This thing is just friggin' gigantic. I'll go ahead and grab a couple of other figures that I think were at least partly inspired by this mold. Here is Beast Hunter's Optimus, and as you can see, he's kind of got the Jetwing thing going on too. And I'll also grab RID Prime with the Jetwing on him, and of course he dwarfs. I can't even get these guys all in frame together just because of how big Jetwing Optimus is. I mean, he makes these things look, you know, teeny tiny. So let me go ahead and get these two guys out of the way, and we will just focus in on this guy here. I mean, he is just ginormous, and he looks absolutely great. He has a lot more color on him than the Takara version. As you can see, he's got those stripes there on his wings that are, of course, they're G1 trailer inspired. Instead of plain gray guns, he's got all sorts of color on him. I kind of dig that. He's got the, you know, orange tips which would indicate it's been firing a lot of shells or whatever. And the Gatling guns do rotate a bit slowly, but they do rotate. And like I said, this thing is just outstanding. Now, one of the coolest things about this is he really doesn't lose any of his posability, even with all this armor on him. And that is kind of a big achievement, in my opinion. You know, most figures that have this much armor, you kind of sacrifice some of the posability, but the cool thing about this guy is, or at least one of my favorite features, is you can still pose it. I mean, you got to be a bit careful because of all the added weight, but you can definitely still put him in some dynamic action poses, which is really freaking cool. I mean, this thing is just outstanding. I'll go ahead and give you a 360 as much as I can here. Do the mass of this thing. I mean, this just looks outstanding, in my opinion, from all angles. I know I'm really drooling over this thing, but it is a wonderful piece. I mean, it is... I can't say enough good things about it. It is freaking awesome, and I am really lucky. My wife actually got this for me on Black Friday at Toys R Us for $50. I don't know if you're going to be able to find it for that price now. Be highly unlikely. I know they are selling it at Toys R Us and on Amazon for $100. And at that price, if you already have a leader class prime like this, it's up to you if you want to spend $100 extra to get this look. But if you do not have any iteration in this mold whatsoever, absolutely it's worth $100, hands down. I would say it'd be worth $100. But like I said, if you already got this figure, it's worth $100 to get the Jetwing part. That's up to you to make that decision, because you can't get just the Jetwing by itself. That's just not going to happen. And if you have a Revenge of the Fallen Prime anyway, you're not going to get this get the Jetwing on unless you permanently remove the gas tanks, and that, you know, that's entirely up to you if you'd want to do that. Anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap this entire thing up. Thanks for having the patience to sit through it with me. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you next time.